The Trump DOJ making the kind of autocratic claims that have to be taken seriously when it's not just Donald Trump musing between dozing off at meetings, but actually your government, your tax dollars. They're defending the billion-dollar ballroom. And now DOJ lawyers who, again, work for you, they're not Trump's personal lawyers, even though he put his former personal lawyer atop the DOJ right now. They say he could destroy any national monument without Congress, without the public. This is all on tape. DOJ telling a judge, if Trump wants, he could bulldoze the Statue of Liberty and no one can do anything about it.
The government decided to move very quickly and bulldoze the Statue of Liberty. The people whose ancestors, that was the first thing they saw coming to this country. But the government moved too fast. Nothing can be done.
I think that's right. Yes.
That's the kind of question a judge poses to test the outer limits. And sometimes you pick something so extreme that a lawyer, in this case a lawyer for the government, but any lawyer who is supposed to argue zealously but within the law and the facts might say, well, no, not that far, Your Honor. Certainly there are some limits here, even if we claim to do whatever we want with a ballroom. Not here, though. The DOJ making its version of Donald Trump's infamous claim that he could shoot anyone on Fifth Avenue. Here they could proverbially shoot or eliminate Lady Liberty herself. The overtones, the symbolism being quite obvious. But let's check how this really works. The Federal Appeals Court panel was skeptical about those arguments. So the fact that the DOJ said them does not mean they're true or legal, something we've all gotten quite accustomed to lately. The symbolism is striking, why this DOJ lawyer would want to jump in and claim that you could actually destroy this symbol, this beacon of freedom that on our best days we celebrate and people around the world look to as America. In fact, to pick a modern example, if you type America into your text message, you'll usually get suggestions of the American flag and Lady Liberty herself. That's how synonymous this is. So the symbolism of saying you can destroy it, there's nothing we could do about it, is telling. As for the ballroom, a watchdog group says corruption is rampant. Over half of the donors have already received or increased getting government contracts for over $50 billion. The White House says these are fake conflicts of interest and everything was just going on anyway. But the numbers, the receipts suggest a kind of pay for play. And again, that's at the cost of the taxpayer. If they give a small amount of money for some cause Trump wants and then get way more taxpayer money in return, money they might not have otherwise gotten, you're footing the bill. We also have late-breaking Friday news here coming out of, again, an embattled DOJ. In a raft of lawsuits challenging the criminal fund, the DOJ has been on defense. Indeed, that MAGA criminal fund has already been paused, subject to further review. Congress may also just cancel it entirely. They've been on the ropes. Now, you might recall that Todd Blanche, the acting AG, told Congress that he wouldn't put it in writing, but the fund is over, not going forward. Here, you have this argument in court where they say it's not going forward. Now, if you look at me here and say, okay, kind of matches up, what's the big deal? Well, what's striking is they're not dropping out. They're not dropping the case and agreeing to just end the fund completely. So we're going to keep a close eye on what happens, although they're clearly in a type of retreat. But second, the DOJ lawyers tonight, this just crossed the wires here within the last few hours, are doing exactly what Todd Blanche said he wouldn't do. He's in charge of the DOJ, but whether he's actually meaningfully in charge, well, that's one of the questions that gets raised when this happens, because he made a big point of saying he wouldn't put the end of the fund in writing.
You established it in writing, so it just makes sense to rescind it in writing. I think a lot of Americans, both sides of the aisle, are concerned about it, and it would restore a lot of trust about this issue.
Okay, I'm not committing to doing anything in writing.
Not committing.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I'll take it under advisement.
Not committed to put in writing, even though he's doing something that actually, in a way, is usually bigger than writing when you're a cabinet official or acting official when you're testifying to Congress. But he drew that line this week, and tonight we can report what I showed you briefly on the screen, that they have put it in writing. They say it's not going forward, while they also are still defending aspects of what they claim is their power to do this. Whether the courts and Congress ultimately agree is the question, because Statue of Liberty claims or not, we still live in a democracy. The president and his lawyers do not get to do everything they want unilaterally. And if that includes giving money to criminals who beat up police or musing about the power to destroy the Statue of Liberty, you also have to ask, why would they want to do those things in the first place? I want to bring in our Friday night heavy hitters, Emily Bazelon from the New York Times Magazine and Juanita Tolliver, host of the podcast Archival, also an MS Now analyst. Emily, what do you think of the Statue of Liberty thing, which is sort of symbolic, but also maybe not, and the sort of double talk but partial retreat we're seeing in this new DOJ filing?
Well, I think if the Justice Department lawyer who said, yes, we can destroy the Statue of Liberty had any choice, he would have said no, because it's obviously makes the government seem like they are willing to be reckless and are claiming the power to destroy any piece of architecture in the country. I think the reason he felt that he couldn't say no is that the government has already destroyed the East Wing of the White House. And so in order to justify that and to say that there's no remedy for that, he felt that he had to claim that the government has this limitless power. So that's my answer to the first part of your question. I think the fund is confusing. You know, do they mean that they're really not going to do it now that they've said so in court? Did Blanche think ahead before he said, no, I won't put this in writing? Or was he just feeling defiant because that's the general posture when Trump appointees testify before Congress? It's really hard to tell. It's very unpopular. Other than Trump saying the other day that he loved it, they seem to be ready to let go of it, but also not quite.
Yeah. Juanita, I don't know how much you listen to Future Hendricks, Atlanta's toxic king.
Come on with it,
but,
Ari.
you know, well, very simply, in an attitude that can come off as arrogant, that can bring you back down to earth, he always used to say, you do what you want when you pop it. And he meant he could get away with anything. And, to compare this legal claim that the DOJ is making to a kind of more nefarious gangster energy, I don't think is a stretch. You can't just do anything and everything you want, even if you think you have quote unquote power. And so I wonder about how, what you think this reveals, not only legally, but politically, because riding high, January after the election, Doge and all that stuff, everybody was a little scattered. They don't have that kind of power now, and they seem to be alienating these judges with these claims.
Because Donald Trump doesn't care about what the public thinks, Ari. As Emily pointed out, these are highly unpopular moves. A majority of the country opposes this ballroom. Majority of the country opposes the arch. A majority of the country or 2/3 of the country don't want Donald Trump's name on money. All things that he has been pushing forward. And when it comes to the courts, I think the signal there is, I don't care what you say. I'll take you to Real Housewives land. Go with me, Ari, because it's giving Sheree Whitfield's "Who's Gonna Check Me?" And another moment from the hearing today that caught my attention was the judge asked, so no court, this court, the Supreme Court, no court can stop this process is what you're saying to me. And the DOJ attorney said yes. And that translates to the Trump administration saying, who is going to stop us? And I think it falls in line with the trend of destruction across institutions. Let's move beyond architecture. Go back to dismantling and hollowing out full agencies. USAID, defunct. Department of Education, hollowed out. Go back to Elon Musk and Doge running rampant, gaining access to U.S. taxpayers' personal data and information, going after court battle from agency to agency to try to stop their movements. This is the play of the Donald Trump administration, Ari.
Yeah. Juanita, Steve Bannon himself looks at all this as losing the midterms in the Senate, risking basically losses that weren't automatic. We know Trump's unpopular, but the congressional races in the Senate cycle is not just a national vote. So the Republicans had some built-in advantages. And even with that, here's what Bannon is saying.
We're going to lose the Senate in the fall anyway. No grassroots leader, none of the grassroots phalanx, the hoplites. Nobody's excited about going door to door and doing voter engagement.
Juanita?
And that's the core of campaigning, Ari. I think it's also important to emphasize why nobody's excited to go door to door, because Republicans have nothing to show their constituents, Ari. What is the message going to be on the doors from congressional Republicans who have done nothing to rein in Trump's tariffs, who have done next to nothing up until this week to rein in war powers in Iran, which have, we know, negatively impacted people in their wallets, which Donald Trump has expressly said he does not care about. So when you have nothing to sell to people, no vision of the future, of course,